Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing an open Great League team that a viewer used to climb to Legend rank, featuring an old meta Pokemon, Shadow Sableye. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Firestar, so many thanks for the battle submission. Shadow Sableye, of course, is a dark and ghost type Pokemon and incredible typing. The moveset Shadow Claw, Foul Play, and Return. While its moveset and typing are amazing, it struggled to find footing in a meta with Pokemon like Diggersby, Drapion, and Azumarill, but Firestar is able to make it work. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and he's off to a great start in game number 1, Diggersby into Clodsire. Opponent is going to save switch into Shadow Feraligatr, and the opponent is completely core broken by the Diggersby. Shadow Feraligatr straight up loses the 2s here. Diggersby does not have to bait to win this matchup. Scorching Sands is going to be shielded by the opponent, no attack debuff comes through, but Diggersby's power in this matchup comes from its normal subtyping. The Shadow Claws are double resisted, so Feraligatr, even though it can hit for massive super effective damage with a Hydro Cannon, is never able to one-shot with said Hydro Cannon. We do see an attack drop from the Scorching Sands. This does mean that this Hydro Cannon will do less damage than it typically would. Firestar is going to go for the Scorching Sands number 3 with the Diggersby, and that is going to pick up the KO. Opponent now going to bring in Annihilate. This is their designated Diggersby counter. He's going to stay in this matchup and just go for the Fire Punch. Now he has the alignment that he wants. Ariados on the Annihilate, and Ariados does win every even but the 2s versus the Annihilate, so in the 0s, Ariados is going to do great here. And there's Sableye in the back, which will be able to defeat the Clodsire. Trailblaze is going to connect, getting the opponent very low. The opponent is going to switch into Clodsire, and now the star of the show, Shadow Sableye, hits the field of play. Shadow Sableye is going to go for the Foul Play. Foul Play into the Clodsire with the Shadow Claw damage will be enough to 2-shot. Shadow Sableye may take extra damage compared to a regular one, but it's going to be able to tank that Earthquake and make it to another Foul Play, over farming slightly to play to the CMP tie as well. Foul Play is going to knock out the Clodsire, in comes Annihilate, that gets Shadow Claw down as well, and game number 1 will end in victory. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Diggersby into Dugong. An Ariados safe switch is an incredibly bold one, but it's answered with a Shadow Marowak. Shadow Marowak does have a winning matchup against Ariados due to the fact that after the Trailblaze, Ariados can never farm down. However, considering the many things that can wall Ariados, overall this honestly works out pretty well. Trailblaze is able to grab a shield, and for Ariados, as the opponent tries to fully farm down here, Ariados getting way more value than expected, as the opponent ends up with a pretty unfortunate misplay, and they're forced to double shield as a result. They do exit with energy, but now they've given Shadow Sableye 2 shields to work with, and that is usually never going to go well for an opponent. They are going to fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind, no shielded by the Diggersby. Diggersby banks the Scorching Sands, and now in comes Sableye. Sableye more than happy to commit the shield and look to overfarm as much as possible. It's now debuffed, but Power Gem hits incredibly hard. And Power Gem, even despite the -1 attack, is still going to be enough to knock out the Dugong here. And what do they have in the back? Dugong removed from the field of play. They bring back in the Marowak, so whatever they have is not going to be a fan of Sableye. So the Bone Club is going to be shielded. In comes Primate. He will go for the Power Gem just to put it into Scorching Sands range. Power Gem does do 1 more damage than Foul Play in this situation. And now we can go for the combo with the Scorching Sands. It doesn't quite KO, but the quick attacks after will be more than enough to secure the win. Picking up a bit of a tricky lead in the next match, Diggersby versus Shadow Typhlosion. On paper, Diggersby has the type advantage, but Typhlosion can make it extremely close. Opponent is going to bank a Thunder Punch, safe switch into Galarian Moltres, and Galarian Moltres is a very scary Pokemon for this team to go up against. Sableye is going to shield the Ancient Power, but Sableye is losing a ton of HP here. Sableye is going to go for the Foul Play bait. The Foul Play bait is successful. That lets Sableye get the Power Gem on the CMP tie. And now, despite the fact that Sableye switched into a Dark type, it's actually able to force a shield. Opponent should go for an undercharge here, and they will, trying to get as much farm as they possibly can. In comes Ariados. Ariados going to take a ton of damage. Opponent is going to switch out and make a lunge catch onto Azumarill. The opponent is absolutely doing their best to store energy everywhere, as they have a ton of energy on the Moltres. They're one away from a Blast Burn on the Shadow Typhlosion. So overall, this is going to be a very difficult endgame to manage because of how much stored energy the opponent has. Ariados knows it cannot shield. Ice Beam is going to connect. Ariados farming up to the back-to-back moves, and that is absolutely crucial, as Ariados now is going to leave with a heavily boosted lunge, expecting the Typhlosion to hit the field of play, looking to pivot out here. In comes Typhlosion, and there's the snipe from the Diggersby, and just like that, the opponent's win cons going up in smoke. In comes the Moltres. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Tough lead and a tough opponent in the next match. Shadow Walrein being led by Beelzebub, who finished 4th in the world at the World Championships this past August. Walrein is going to strike first with an Icicle Spear, and that leaves a mark. Massive damage. Diggersby returns fire with the Scorching Sands. Shadow Walrein will commit the shield, and now we see an aggressive pivot out into the Shadow Sableye. An early shield used by the Sableye. Sableye is going to convert the shield advantage into an energy advantage, and it will swiftly be answered with Marowak. Marowak throws instantly, understanding if it tries to go for good timing, Sableye would be able to make the back-to-back foul plays, so instead, just choosing to get the advantage wherever is possible. Shadow Foul Play is going to deal massive damage, giving Sableye a farm down, and Sableye's energy, considering Marowak was the switch-in, should go everywhere against the opponent's team. In comes Walrein. Walrein will immediately be met with the foul play. Can the Walrein potentially get a farm down here? Shadow Sableye gets the foul play. The opponent switches, making a catch onto Cresselia, but Cresselia takes massive damage. In comes Ariados, and most Cresselia do not run Future Sight in this meta, and this Cresselia is unfortunately walled. They have Moonblast plus Grass Knot. Ariados gets to build up to the back-to-back, so the opponent will concede the match. Diggersby versus Venusaur. This is a core breaker for this team, as Venusaur can do very well against the Diggersby, and on top of that, if you switch in the Sableye, Sableye is always going to be at a pacing disadvantage. Frenzy Plant is going to land. That is monster damage. Diggersby returning fire with Fire Punch, and Fire Punch is going to be no shielded. Diggersby able to hang on, getting the Fire Punch, but there's a switch out by the opponent as they make a catch onto Dugong. Dugong is met with the Sableye, so Firestar going to save that Ariados to try and sweep in the endgame. Going to fire off this Power Gem. Power Gem shielded up by the Dugong, as Dugong gives up the first shield of the match. They're very close to the back-to-back Icy Winds, but they don't have it just yet. So the Icy Wind is going to be shielded, but the fact that the opponent has energy on Venusaur will prove to be problematic for the Sableye if that's what they decide to bring in. But they have Guzzlord in the back. Guzzlord gets a perfect farm down to Sableye, falling just short of the move. Attempted a catch, it is unsuccessful, and with that, the opponent should have this game won, as Lunge hits for super effective damage, but Guzzlord is very bulky. It is an absolutely monster HP stat. It has basically no defense, but with that amount of HP, it will be able to hang on and survive a lunge at this health range. The opponent is going to fire off a move with the Guzzlord. It's going to be the Brutal Swing. Ariados trying to get to the lunge, getting there. It's going to be a CMP tie. Ariados needs this to KO, but I've played out this matchup too many times. Guzzlord barely hanging on, just a few HP remaining, but that's all that was needed to KO the Ariados. We move to the next game, Diggersby versus Talonflame. This team is technically ABA weak to Talonflame, but when it comes down to it, Diggersby is surprisingly fine against Talonflame. The quick attacks add up, resistant Scorching Sands does do quite a bit as well, and of course there is always the potential for a Scorching Sands debuff. No Scorching Sands debuff this time, Fly is going to connect. Diggersby farming up, and Diggersby will actually expend a shield in this matchup. Fly is going to be shielded. Scorching Sands should just about knock out from this health range. It is going to be very, very close. The opponent is actually going to commit the shield. Diggersby unable to get the Fire Punch, but this now sets up a very nice farm down for Shadow Sableye. And Shadow Sableye up energy can go places. Shadow Sableye gets a 4 Shadow Claw head start. In comes Dunsparce. Definitely not a great spot to be in as the Shadow Sableye, but look at this, Shadow Sableye almost at the back-to-back foul plays. First one is going to connect, make it into foul play number 2, and this will come very close to 2-shotting. Foul play is going to land, barely not enough to KO. The switch and an attempt at a catch on a drill run caught the drill run onto the Ariados. Ariados just not able to poison this thing down. Dunsparce with the 1 HP survive. Dunsparce grabs the final shield, but it's superior in the back. Immediate lunge applied by this Ariados, as Ariados knows it's going to need to lower the damage output on this Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace is going to be fired off, but it's not going to be enough to knock out. And now we have a Trailblaze from Firestar. He knows this is going to be shielded, so he wants as much Poison Sting damage as he can possibly get, and that forces the opponent's hand. They're forced to expend energy here, otherwise their superior would get farmed down. In comes Sableye. Sableye will get the farm down. The opponent recognizes that, and they will concede the match. Diggersby into Miltank. Most Miltanks in the Open Great League are running Body Slam, but they're also running Thunderbolt, and that means it's a thoroughly miserable matchup for Diggersby. A superior save switch is a bold one, and that will immediately be met with Ariados. Superior can put up a fight, but after the first lunge lands, the second Aerial Ace will not be enough to knock out. So Firestar can very comfortably no shield and fully commit to a Poison Sting farm down. The Aerial Ace is going to land. That does get the Ariados low, but Ariados is able to get the farm down. That got a bit closer than I expected, to be honest. But with a fraction of HP available on the Ariados, Ariados will now get to land a lunge into the Miltank. Lunge, no shielded by the Miltank. Back in comes Diggersby. In the back is Air Slash Mandibuzz. And this game, despite the fact that Air Slash Mandibuzz is a core breaker for this team, should just end in a win. And the reason being is that Mandibuzz is not going to be able to 1v2. Mandibuzz with Air Slash. The Air Slash does do very nice fast attack pressure here, but Air Slash is very, very slow. So Sableye, despite the fact that it was behind on energy, can honestly do great here. Sableye goes for the Power Gem. That's going to grab the final shield from the opponent. Sableye going for the double shield, smelling blood in the water here. Landing a Power Gem would be absolutely everything. Sableye is going to get to that Power Gem, taking advantage of the slow pacing on Aerial Ace. Power Gem connects, and Sableye has officially done its job. In comes the Diggersby. Diggersby more than happy to absorb whatever they throw. It is going to be the Aerial Ace, and that is just not the damage that needs to happen. We're going to see, do they have Ice Beam? No, they do not. They're on Body Slam, and Body Slam into a Diggersby, unfortunately, you're going to need like 6 of them if you want to deal any meaningful damage. The Scorching Sand's not going to do much either, as Miltank is quite bulky, but at this point, Diggersby is just completely inevitable. Body Slam lands. Now Diggersby will go for the Fire Punch. Fire Punch into the Miltank is barely not enough to KO, but the quick attack after will register a knockout. In comes the Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz, things looked potentially promising for the opponent. That's technically a core that Mandibuzz should break, but Sableye was just able to outspeed it. Leading into Azumarill, a tricky lead. We're going to see a save switch to Shadow Sableye. Opponent overfarming, and that is going to allow Sableye to strike first with a Power Gem. Power Gem is going to connect, dealing some very nice damage. One thing that I'm honestly not sure of is his Sableye IVs in particular, because there is a Sableye that can actually do 1 extra damage to Azumarill with each Shadow Claw, and that does actually make that matchup even more convincing. Here, he is going to bait with a foul play, unfortunately unable to make it to the Power Gem. Let's test the opponent's counts, and they're spot on. That's a stone cold no shield from the opponent. Oh my goodness. In comes Diggersby. The opponent tries to CMP tie a Brave Bird on the Fire Punch. Firestar just going to try and get as much farm as possible. And now that the Brave Bird lands, going to go for the Fire Punch. Fire Punch is going to knock the Moltres out of the sky. Ariados enters the field, but it's Typhlosion in the back. And unfortunately, this game is over. Typhlosion is going to be hit with the lunge. Ariados is going to make one final lunge, but Typhlosion is just going to exit with 2 Blast Burns here. The lunge is going to connect, but a huge misplay from the opponent. They thought the Incinerate KO'd, but due to the lunge debuff, Ariados survived on 1 HP, and that actually makes them throw a move at a 1 HP Ariados when it was meant for the Diggersby. Is this going to be enough to flip the game? Unfortunately, it is not, as this is not Scorching Sands range on the Azumarill. Azumarill will hang on. So for a moment there, I thought there might be hope, but the Azumarill was still just a bit too healthy. Hopping into the final match, and unfortunately, it's like watching a replay from last game. We're going to see a Sableye save switch answered with a Wigglytuff. Oh, this is absolutely terrible. Wigglytuff has to be my least favorite Pokemon in this current Great League meta, as it really just beats all of the flexible Pokemon. Flexible Pokemon like Shadow Sableye, Malamar, Feraligatr, they do all struggle against Wigglytuff. So Wigglytuff, not a Pokemon that I'm a particular fan of this season, as I feel that it induces quite a bit of RPS. Gonna bank a ton of energy, get a sick farm down with the Ariados, and now the opponent is gonna bring in Annihilate. Oh my goodness, they're triple weak to Ariados. We are going to need to see an Ariados masterclass if this game will end in victory. But it's off to a good start because Ariados has a huge energy advantage. Trailblaze after Trailblaze connects, the opponent giving up the first shield, Ariados shielding back, as Ariados does have a pacing advantage due to this massive energy head start. And now Ariados just gets to ramp up more and more and more. And the opponent is going to realize they are in increasingly higher and higher levels of danger. The Rage Fist is going to be shielded. Ariados, we see a switch in from the opponent into Azumarill. Let's see how much damage this Trailblaze is. It's so boosted. Oh my goodness, Azumarill gets absolutely rocked. Oh no, you didn't have to do him like that. And then the back-breaking catch onto the Diggersby. Diggersby going to go for an undercharge here, only hitting a bubble or two because he wants to exit with a move on the Ariados. Opponent wants no more of Firestar's nonsense, and they will concede the match. All in all, big congratulations to Firestar on hitting Legend and being able to climb the leaderboards a bit with this team. Definitely a pretty creative team in my book, as Diggersby, of course, top meta, but the things that it's paired with are quite interesting, as Ariados was absolutely everywhere in October, but hasn't seen as much usage the past month or two, and Shadow Sableye we have not seen much of due to how powerful Pokemon like Drapion and Azumarill, and of course the ever-present Diggersby are. But I'm very happy to see Shadow Sableye finding a niche once again, as even though there's a lot of Pokemon that do a great job at countering it, Shadow Sableye will go, honestly I feel like it's a Pokemon that will go as far as the trainer using it. If you're able to give it that slight advantage, whether it's an energy or a shield advantage, it can completely take over games, even as we saw quite a few times in matchups where it's at a type disadvantage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy content like this, please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.